This is the Morning Brushback. I'm your co-host, Dan Blewett. I'm joined remotely by Bobby Stevens out in Chicago. Bobby, how you doing, man?
Daniel, good morning.
Good morning, sir. So we have a guest list Friday, which I'm personally delighted about. I've enjoyed our guests, but I just want some quality time with my co-host. It's just like I feel like we don't get to spend any time together, man.
I'll tell you what, it's been a long time since we've argued one-on-one.
Well, speaking of that, so I heard the podcast came after you pretty hard the other day about our president's golf habits.
This podcast Twitter is really stirring the pot.
He's coming after you.
He's got a mind of its own.
So he said you were unhappy with Governor Pritzker's family being in Florida, and then he asked if you were as unhappy with the president constantly being in his little Mar-a-Lago and golfing like every other day. And he wanted to know how you felt about it.
The podcast
and you felt attacked.
Oddly thinks
made some good points. You're right. Yeah.
He or she, whatever, shares an odd assimilation with you. I'm not going to point any.
Well, it's not surprising that a podcast rising to sentience would inhabit a marvelous personality like me with just
the AI. The AI on this podcast is not quite where these comments are coming from. I don't know where these thoughts are being formed.
I don't think it's a far stretch to think that AI would be designed in my image. I mean, look into these eyes, Bobby.
I find it odd that
my smooth radio voice, Bobby.
It's soothing is what it is. I find it odd that the podcast also tweets from the DC area. Just an interesting,
the center of politics.
It's an interesting side note that he or she decided to just make residence in DC.
I can't remember if the podcast knew it was doing, or if it just, because it has 3 accounts that it covers, that it just happened to do it on the podcast. But yeah, no, I mean, I think in 50 years, it's very likely that, in like a Terminator sort of world where humans are being oppressed by robots, it's very likely that they'll look like me. It's very likely.
I do have the slight
easy
panic.
On the eyes, easy on the eyes when you're being oppressed and making pyramids or whatever robots would have you do.
Right. When he's dictating our everyday lives, this Morning Brushback podcast.
Like, Dan, I used to watch your videos. Why are you doing this? I'm not Dan anymore.
I do get the slightest bit of anxiety when I tweet something out and I for a second pause and think, what account did I tweet that out from? Because I have my personal account, my team account, the Brushback. I mean, and all the burner accounts I like to troll our former guests on.
Yeah, all those burner accounts. So what are we talking about today, sir?
We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. This MLB proposal, Trevor Bauer and Blake Snell just going off on social media.
Okay.
Some good points, some bad points. We'll talk. MAC, my former conference, the Mid-American Conference, doing away with their postseason tournaments for 8 sports, baseball and softball included. So making it that much more difficult to make it to the regionals for if you're a baseball or softball team.
You have to get an at-large bid then?
You'd have to get an at-large bid, which is nearly impossible for a mid-major school. We'll probably jump around to a few other topics, but I want to start off with the MLB stuff. So have you been keeping up with the Trevor Bauer Twitter rants and such?
I mute him, I think. I mute him on Twitter because I'm just not a fan of anything that comes out of his mouth in general. But fill me in.
So this MLB proposal came out, and we were talking a little bit off air that if anybody knows exactly what's happening with this proposal, please send it over to us. I'm seeing the 50-50 split of revenue as the big contention point. And Trevor Bauer and Blake Snell are arguing that they've already agreed to a prorated pay cut. They're going to play half the games. They should get half their salaries, which to me sounds very fair. I don't know where the holdup is in there. But it sounds like that's not quite the case, and players are only going to get 50% of the revenue. So if the revenue is 0, from my understanding, the players would play essentially for free. And obviously nobody wants to do that.
No. Well, so I heard Blake Snell's comments, and I saw many of the responses to it. Which he's like, there's going to be more risk. I'm not going to go out there and get sick for that. And I think that's a pretty tone deaf way to go about this. If I was a player in the major leagues right now, I would probably say nothing about a lot of this, but I would be very wary about talking about how much risk I'm assuming, which is not nearly as much as a grocery store worker who I think everyone appreciates that there's a lot of people keeping the world running by, you know, taking care of our sick in the hospitals. Like all the hospital workers are putting themselves at risk every day. And then all these just other essential workers at Target, at the grocery store, at everywhere that we still need to go, their risk is extremely high. And so then you get a privileged Major League Baseball player who's making, I don't know what Blake Snell makes, 6 million a year, 10 million a year, something like that. And you refuse to accept this risk for 5 million measly dollars for 3 months work. That's just like definitely not the right sentiment to express to the world. That's maybe the one to express to your rich buddies in private, and then not say that in the real world. So I get that now one counter argument was, well, these people who are working whatever the job is, they're doing their normal job and getting their normal pay. Like a nurse is making her normal salary right now. Right. Okay. They're not taking a pay cut. I get it. So if you ask a nurse to take 50%, does she still assume all that risk, which is vastly higher than what a Major League Baseball player would go through? Fair question. But yeah, I just think I think that's a poor way to go about this whole dialogue. It's like everyone wants sports back, and players need to understand that their job is as an entertainer. There isn't anything beyond them being an entertainer. They might think it's something bigger, but it's not. Sports have always been entertainment. And that's just what it is. So if they're asking like this is not it's obviously it's a job, but it is entertainment. And so I just think that there's like a little lack of sensitivity, which from Trevor Bauer is not surprising because he seems just tone deaf like all the time and does lots of strange things that make no sense. But I don't know. What's your take on it?
I mean, the Blake Snell one is brutal. It just the optics are terrible with what he said, and I don't think he's wrong. It's just the optics of it are bad. Like, I don't know where Tony Clark is. Tony Clark, the head of the MLBPA. I don't know where
Tony,
he's been.
Where are you, Tony?
He needs to corral these guys and just tell them, look, our messaging is if it's safe, then we have a good chance of playing. If it's not safe, then we're not going to play. And just
don't use the terms. I need my money. I want my money or something, which is what Blake Snell said. Yeah, I read his quote.
And if you haven't seen his video, I just retweeted it. So he did it on Twitch, or he did it on one of those, whatever the kids play video games on. I don't have video games, but
crazy kids.
You cannot, first thing out of your mouth is, I'm not playing for less than what I'm supposed to get. Because then the argument shifts from not is it safe, but what's the right dollar amount? Like, okay, so if you get a certain dollar amount, like you should play and forget everything else. Like there's so many things, so many layers of this. And I'm very hesitant to side with billionaire, a group of 30 billionaires. But if you're in a business and you're looking at this and say, look, if we don't play this year, each one of our teams is going to lose $500 million. But if we do play at these current conditions, we set to lose $800 million. Like logically, it makes no sense to play if you're the billionaire owner. I don't care how much money you have. Nobody's just throwing money out the window. So I understand where there needs to be some compromise on both sides. And the players have compromised. They're getting a prorated salary, which I don't know why that would be considered a compromise of any sorts. Like, why would you get the $10 million you were supposed to get if you only play half the games? There's no reason to get that money. Like, you get what baseball for the longest time has been no salary cap, guaranteed contracts. Like,
yeah. And I was thinking about that too. The whole it's like football doesn't have guaranteed contracts. Like you get hurt or whatever, and I don't know how the football contracts work exactly, but you're right. The guaranteed contracts thing it's like great. So you're
guaranteed your money.
Terrible for the next 5 years or get hurt and earn no revenue. Like everyone has that protection.
You get career ending injury. like you're signed, Mike Trout goes down tomorrow, doesn't play for the next 2 years. Like he's collecting that money he signed for. Now, granted, the team might have some kind of insurance claim or something like that to recoup those funds, but for the most part, that money's all coming to him. He doesn't have to worry about it. You're a football player. You might have a small percentage of your money guaranteed, but the rest of that, $10 million contract you have, gone. See you later. And you're basically done at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, this is not surprising. And this is social media. I mean, players are on the web more than they have been, which is a good thing. But at the same time, I mean, just like any other group or organization in any profession, you just have people that just like have little emotional intelligence. And I think Trevor Bauer leads the charge there at times. And it sounds like Blake Snell does too. Like they just don't have the emotional intelligence to say, maybe I shouldn't say it in this way and be really insensitive being a multimillionaire young athlete. Maybe I shouldn't phrase it that way. Maybe I should just be diplomatic about it, because I'm very well paid for doing something that everyone would like to do and is a very cool job. But again, you have people at the post office who are going off on crazy rants and doing weird stuff and just being like a psychotic person. You have people at any job that just like have little emotional intelligence about how they interact with other people, and baseball is no different. So it's not surprising.
This is highlighting an issue that baseball has been pointing out for the last, I don't know, since Derek Jeter retired, is that there is no face of baseball. If this was happening during, and it is happening,
it should not be Trevor Bauer, that's for sure.
Well, whoever
chucking the ball over the center field wall, like when he has a tantrum.
Basketball takes for whether you like them or dislike them, and the Last Dance is out, and we're talking about Michael Jordan all the time. LeBron James is the face of basketball, whether you like him or not. And LeBron James, for all accounts, is a very well-spoken person. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, and I think
LeBron's great. Yeah, I think he's impressed me a lot
he's a very well-spoken guy
in this era of our dictator president. Yeah.
Well, just in general, like he speaks out, like he does. I haven't watched The Last Dance, but the big knock on Michael Jordan when he played was, Republicans buy shoes too. Like he never took really a political stance. He stayed pretty neutral for whatever his beliefs were. And LeBron James is now. He has taken a side. He has formulated well thought out responses to social issues. And he's the face of basketball. Baseball does not have that. And football, I would argue, not that they're being affected currently, but the NFL commissioner has a face. Like he does put out information. And who's the face?
He does have a face. Yep, he's got a face. He's got skin.
He's got a
skin.
mug.
At least one nose.
I don't know who you would consider the face of football. Probably Tom Brady. Also
sure.
Another well-spoken person, very calculated in what he says. So you don't see football players speaking out.
Does Tom Brady ever talk except for just being on like a watch commercial or like a watch ad?
Yeah, you always get
what does his voice even sounds like?
It's very it sounds like what our podcast voice would sound like, very robotic and monotone. But you see the like baseball, there is no face of baseball. Like nobody's taking the lead, and if Tony Clark needs to come forward and just be the guy that tells everybody, look, this is the messaging, stick with it. And I've seen guys on Twitter, former players, kind of attacking Blake Snell, not for his opinion, but just for the messaging that it's sending to everybody. Like you're making the players sound terrible right now because it's all about money when everybody's out of work right now. So you can't, the messaging needs to be different.
Boo hoo! You can't get your $4 million instead of $8 million for being on TV and revered by. Boo hoo, Blake! Exactly. It's just not a good way to phrase it in the world. Like
the problem is the face. I think the problem is the face of baseball. Like the face of baseball should be Mike Trout. He's the best player. He's in the second largest.
Yeah, but that's clearly not his personality. Just like Clayton Kershaw, it's not Clayton Kershaw's personality either. They're very similar. They just want to do their thing. They're clearly both like good, humble people, and they just want to show up at the ballpark and go home at night.
Yeah,
and that's okay. I think they deserve that.
You have the opposite in Bryce Harper, who's very he's very brash, and he's not diplomatic. He's not. I haven't heard him speak all that much, but when you do hear him speak, it sounds like he's not calculating what he's saying. He's just saying it. And that's great. Like you get unfiltered information, but I don't know if the face of baseball needs to be off the cuff remarks from your most popular guy.
Bryce Harper is not even a top tier major leaguer anymore. I mean, he's an above average player, but he's not a superstar. Popularity, yeah, but I feel like that's going to start waning as well. I feel like he's been tucked away in Philadelphia, and that he's not as in the limelight as he once was. Although maybe that's just my own perception. But
we
like,
haven't seen
Jake Arrieta. Like, where did Jake Arrieta go? Oh, he's in Philly, so like no one cares. Kind of.
We haven't seen anybody since Derek Jeter who's had a national presence, just as far as media is concerned, and he's in a major market. I mean, who's in New York? Who's in New York right now? You have Aaron Judge, who's essentially young and quiet. You've got Stanton, who doesn't say much. You know, there is no face of baseball that's got a major platform that can say, look, we want to play. We want it to be safe. We want it to be fair.
And then you have a whole team in Houston. They're just a bunch of cheaters.
Yeah. Did you see that burner Aroldis Chapman account that responded to Jose Altuve? Jose Altuve came out and said, we're not going to play for these terms. And Aroldis Chapman's burner account said, you better not. I'm warming up to basically dice you up. It was very good fodder.
Well, the real winners, and I hate to phrase it that way, but the real winners of the whole coronavirus thing are the Astros, because no one cares about the scandal anymore because everyone's got bigger fish to fry. But I feel like, and when we get back to baseball, and I was just talking to a friend about this, when we get back to baseball, everyone's going to be excited to have baseball, and they're not going to want to be like, wait, guys, we need to remember to shame these people, which we need to. Like, the Astros are still despicable, shameful humans, especially Bregman. I mean, I'm a little more neutral on Altuve, but just like that little punk and his lies and just the way he is, it's just, they're awful. So we need to remember to not. And even like I know like Justin Verlander was given some of his like $4,000 a month salary or whatever they were giving the players. He was giving that away to charity, and that's great. And I like Justin Verlander, but it's like, everyone still continues to act, I think, on the pitching side that they didn't know what was going on or that they weren't affected by it. Like, it didn't help them. It's like no one has really been honest. Correa was honest for like a minute about it, and then also spouted off about how another player like didn't know all the facts. It's like, the facts are that you guys are cheaters. Just stop there. So it's been really disappointing. I feel like on the Justin Verlander could be that kind of face of baseball. I mean, he's been dealing for 10 years.
Yeah, he's got a platform. He's got a very famous wife.
He's on the cheater team. He never really owned up, or like, especially as a pitcher, you could just be like, look, yeah, we know we got helped by this. Like, we knew it was going on. Like, no one's going to care nearly as much as a hitter. You could have just like taken that bullet and taken the high road, but no one chose to really do that. So,
yeah, I mean, Verlander. He's been in Detroit. I mean, not the biggest market. Houston, for the last couple of years, they've been front and center in baseball, glory, whether it's good or bad. I mean, they've been on a national stage. They play all the Sunday night games. Verlander could be the face. His wife is very famous, model, actress, whatever you want to consider her.
And he has a face too, which is important.
He's got a face. It's not the best looking face, but it's, it's there. So he could be the face of, at least the front and center face of baseball. Somebody needs to take those reins. Like, Derek Jeter left a huge void when he retired, leaving New York. Now he's in Miami. He's basically MIA. He got married, to the chagrin of all of us.
He got married? I didn't know that.
He did get married. He ended
married
his,
to?
I don't know her name, but he ended his long run of actresses and models and starlets, Hollywood starlets. So he really, end of an era, left baseball, got married.
Derek, we hardly knew ye. Well, you got to get married at some point, maybe. You don't have to, but you can if you want to.
You could. I did. So
packed it in. Just pack it in.
I mean, I was.
What shelf do you keep your stones and your manhood on? Did she give you a shelf for it, or is it just like tucked away in like a box?
No, there's we have a side drawer. They're in there somewhere. They're in a little glass case.
Got it.
All right. So moving on. We've got my former conference. I went to Northern Illinois University, the Mid-American Conference. Some of you might know MACtion football, Tuesday, Wednesday football scores.
No one knows that. No.
Everybody knows that.
Keep going.
Great gambling fodder. This 60-50 football game on a Tuesday evening. But the MAC came out 3 days ago and basically said that starting in 2021, the conference is eliminating the postseason tournaments for baseball, softball, men's and women's soccer and tennis, women's lacrosse, and field hockey. Now, I don't have strong opinions on the field hockey part, but the baseball and softball one is a little disturbing just from a former player. What do you got on this?
Well, field hockey is such a strange sport. It's like they're running around with an umbrella, holding it by the end, and they have these weird goggles on, and they just whack the ball and try not to hurt each other. It's just a fascinating sport.
Yeah.
So that's what I have on field hockey. Yeah, as far as like the conference play, that seems like a strange decision. Like, why? What do you feel like the reason for doing that is?
It feels strictly monetary to me, that they're just trying to save some money. You save money on the conference tournament, you save money on travel. I know it's been on Twitter that there's baseball conferences debating moving to normally in baseball you play a 3 or 4 game set in the weekends, but they're talking about 3 game sets, flying in on Saturday morning, playing a doubleheader, flying out Sunday night after you play a single game on Sunday. So basically cutting down on those travel costs. It's monetary. They just want to save some money, and
Doubleheaders are the worst.
Doubleheaders are absolutely the worst.
When robotic Dans enslave humanity in 50 years, there will be no doubleheaders. Or actually, there will be doubleheaders for everyone every day. It depends how we feel. So if you do your work, then there will be no doubleheaders. But if the humans revolt, then there will be doubleheaders every day. Doubleheaders are the worst. How do you feel about doubleheaders?
So I have a different opinion on doubleheaders. When you're a guy who's not an everyday starter, doubleheaders might be great because that might be the only time you get in the game. But as a player and an everyday guy, I hate doubleheaders. I never want to play them, especially the day-night doubleheader. Now, if you're playing the 2 back-to-back 7-inning doubleheaders, fine, I'll knock those out. But if you got to play at noon, 9-inning game, come back at 7, play 9-inning game, no way. Give me.
I actually like that better. I like the day night better because it's just at least you have like 2 routines. You kind of get to like have like a nice meal in between. And I like that you have like the night game. It's like the day game is like prep for the real game, which I always love night games, obviously. But it's very different as a kid because as a kid, you just like get to have more fun that day if it's nice out.
Right.
In college, if it's cold out, like if you're in a mid-Atlantic school or like an Illinois type school where it's just miserable until like the last week of the season, doubleheaders are so terrible, especially as a pitcher. You're just out there just shivering the whole time, and it's unpleasant. I mean, we all have to understand there's a lot of things that we love about baseball. I mean, I love baseball. It was a great thing in my life. It still is, obviously, just not as a player. Doubleheaders were not one of them. I mean, again, when I was a kid, they were great. It's more time in the sun with your buddies, whatever. In pro ball in college, they just suck. Like as a pitcher, they just suck. You're just standing around a lot. You have a lot of field work to do. It's just very long, very cold. If you're playing shortstop in 2 games, it's probably a lot different. Because then if you have a crappy first game, you can like redeem yourself. If you have a good first game, you can be like, I'm going to go 8 for 8 today. But and then the big thing in pro ball obviously is the fact that you have to get up early and screw your normal routine up and see the sun. I just hate playing under the sun. Like as a kid, that's normal. But when you get to pro ball, every game's a night game, and that coolness and just like you get out there at 11 a.m. and you're like, oh God, where am I? What am I doing? Why is the sun out? Why is it so hot? Why am I sweating? And that's like how you feel the whole day.
Well,
your previous night is the same. You go to bed at midnight, and then you're ready to like slowly ease into your routine the next day. But no, you got to get up at 9:30 and be at the ballpark at 10 or something, and then your game's at 1. And it's just like you have breakfast food smell in the clubhouse. I'm not a huge breakfast food person, so it's like I got to smell bacon and eggs and then go play baseball. I sound like a real spoiled brat right now.
You sound like
that's my opinion on doubleheaders. I just genuinely hated doubleheaders the last third of my career. As a kid, I liked them. But if you go to a major league game, we get back there, just know that every player hates their life when it's a doubleheader. They hate it. The sun.
It's
merciless.
Nothing is more annoying than the early day game when it's camp day and
the 11 a.m. Tuesday game.
Where every kid's camp in the Tri-County area, brings their day campers and they're in their shirts, in their like same colored shirts, puts them in a big group in the stands, and there's 2,500 little kids not paying attention to the ball, just whizzing past their face, and they're screaming, all while the camp counselors are crying in the last row because they cannot stand their lives at that current moment. Nothing is worse.
Yeah, and for people who maybe think this is another spoiled person take, I really like kids. Like I always have. I know everyone's different in like what age group they really like enjoy. I really like younger kids. I think they're funny. They say the stupidest stuff because that's just like what you are when you're growing up. And like I don't mind. Like I like the younger kids that I worked with. But the camp environment at these games, what you end up getting as a player is like, you know, a foul ball comes over there in the bullpen and you get 30 or 40 kids run over and scream at the top of their lungs to get the ball at their little high pitched voices. And it's like, I would like all of you individually, like, thanks for coming, but you got to stop. Like
that
40
mob
kids
mentality
screaming. Yeah. It's just it is a rough morning. It's great to see the kids at the ballpark. I sign autographs. Like I love doing all that stuff. I would sign a lot for those early day games, and we would toss balls in the stands, but just that, like I think the minor league ballpark behavior has changed over the years where kids run over and they like are kind of aggressive sometimes about asking for foul balls instead of being polite. And there's a story I've shared before, not on this podcast, but we were this girl just like played as like a fiddle. It was like the 8th inning or something. We were in Southern Maryland and they had this big like concrete embankment. So there's like, you know, like 10 feet up, you can see the fans looking down at you as you warm up. And this little girl, I don't know how old she was, maybe like 6, but she's real tiny. She walks over and she's like kind of crossing her legs because she's like kind of nervous to like talk to us. And she goes, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey," and she goes, I just wanted to tell you, I think you're great. And then she like runs back to her like to her parents. And I was like, I need to get that girl a ball. Where's a ball? She needs a ball. And I found her and I like called her back and gave her a ball. But just like moments like that, I loved. Like the kids are awesome. Like they see themselves in you. Like you see yourselves in them. Like it's such a cool thing. But like then you also get a lot of little kids that just I wish parents at games would just I mean, even just playing the game, like, hey, go like give the player a compliment. Like just go ask them like something that they'd like to, you know, ask them what pitches they throw. It's cool when the kids take interest in us and are just like polite and will come over and whatever, because you just get worn out. 140 games of kids running over and screaming, kind of sometimes demanding that you throw them the foul ball. It's just like, it just wears you out over time. And it's hard, even when you like kids like I do, to just be like, come on, guy. Like, you know.
Yeah, some of these minor league parks aren't very conducive to privacy either. So like I remember playing in parks where you had to literally walk through the fans to get back to your clubhouse. And I would always sign. I'd always be the last, one of the last ones out there signing, whether I signed for that kid, the previous 20 days or not. You just sign the autograph. You feel grateful that somebody's actually asking, because now in my
worthless. Bobby Stevens autographs are trading for between 0 cents and 1 cent.
Well, even like when you play on the team with like Manny Machado and all these big leaguers, like those autographs are also worthless when they're on a plastic baseball that they handed out and it's got mud on it because the kid was playing catch with it. But it's funny you say the little girl, because you have to be wary as a player. You have to be wary of the autograph sharks that are sending the little kids over and paying them $5 to get autographs from you or baseballs from you.
Well, I was a nobody, so I didn't have to worry about that. So
well, the baseballs, but the little kids, those day games when they're ice cream covered hands and just reaching out and grabbing you, like, oh, I like kids as much as anybody else, but not when they're reaching out and grabbing me with their sticky paws. Just, ugh.
All right, we're whining. We're whining.
Okay, hold on.
But moral of the story is, I like kids. Appreciate the fans. Don't love day games. Don't love doubleheaders. That's all you need to really take from this story.
So back to where the doubleheader started. If you're take yourself back to a senior in college, a senior in high school, are you going to go to a school like a MAC school like this where you mainly have no chance of going to a regional not that that's the end all, but there's a
It's
lot of
something. It's something that you
circumstances.
play for. Yeah, if you have options like School A, School B, and School A has no postseason, it's not ideal.
No, it's a
It's not
tough one.
ideal.
I think it's going to be very difficult.
And this is the
Another,
entire
just another,
conference. The entire conference, you said.
yeah, it's just another obstacle when you're a mid major for recruiting. I keep up with recruiting a lot because I have youth teams. They just extended the dead period through the end of June, so these schools, the dead period is designed to level the playing field between the top 20 schools in the country and
Mm-hmm.
the max schools of the world. Try and make it a little bit even. And now you're not even letting these guys. They can't have people on campus. They can't go out recruiting. I mean, essentially, you have a very limited window to find the best players, and those best
Yeah.
players are now being scooped up by the bigger schools. And now you've got this to deal with. It's just you're not making it easy for any of these max schools to recruit, which sucks because
Scooping,
there's plenty of good baseball players that come out of those conferences that are going to end up going somewhere else.
yeah, Bobby, I have two things to announce.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to start advertising it more because they just kind of released the marketing stuff. But I'm in 2 online summits coming up later the end of this month, or early in the next month. So one is this debate series called The King of the Hill, and it's by this company called the Expert Summit. And their idea is it's like a bracket format where they have, in this one, it's all pitching minds. They have like a debate bracket. So I'm going to be debating Brent Porcio, who is the pitching guy, well known on the internet. He's the founder of TopVelocity.net. Does a good job. Like he's a super well known for a reason. Pitching guy. So he and I will be debating on some yet to be determined topic. But then whoever wins goes and debates the winner of their debate match. So interesting format. I think that's kind of cool. I'm curious to see how it'll go. First time to use my philosophy degree for anything relevant, except for just destroying you here on the show constantly.
Well, I feel bad for that guy, that Brett guy. I don't even know what you're going to be talking about, but I feel like
I'm difficult. I'm difficult for sure.
It's going to be a difficult debate for him, but good for you. I mean, that's going to be I'll be watching.
We'll
I'll be watching somebody else get reamed apart. I will take great pleasure.
Yes. So that's one of them. That's on June 7th. I think my first debate is June 8th at 8:45 p.m. But check out @Expert Summit. So it's XPERT Summit on Twitter. And then I'm in another one. It's a softball summit about recruiting. And that's coming up the end of this month, I believe. And I'll be actually doing 2 different shows in it. So I'll be doing a live hour presentation on softball throwing and how fielding interacts with softball throwing, all that sort of stuff, which is what I talk a lot about on my YouTube channel. And then I'll be talking about the mental game in another one in a pre-recorded session. So that will be pretty cool. So I got a chance to do that. I appreciate Nick Esposito. If you're out there, he's also in the summit. He suggested me to the organizer and she took me. So I appreciate that. So I'll be sending that around. So if you're a listener and you're on my email list or whatever, I'll be sending info about that in case you want to attend. But it seems like a lot of good minds in both the debate and the softball summit. So that'll be cool. But
yeah, the softball one will be interesting. I don't think people realize how much different softball recruiting is than baseball recruiting, just from just how young they actually go to look.
So what do you got on softball recruiting?
So I've got a couple girls that do softball lessons by me, and they've got one very, very good 2023 graduate, high school graduate. So she's going into her sophomore year, 2022. Okay. But she's already she cannot sign until she's her junior year, but she's already had the SEC offers, the Pac-12 offers. I mean, she's been invited to numerous national showcases. She's ranked number 80 in the country for her class. And just to talk to her dad, who's very serious about the softball thing, he's got her training, multiple times a week, weights, hitting, speed, all kinds of stuff. It's amazing how many girls from her travel team, and she's on a very prestigious travel team nationally, how many girls have already just verbally committed to their school. It's it's actually very impressive. So it happened so early. The one pitcher on her team was already being in 7th grade. She was being touted as like the next coming. She was on all these radars. So softball, it happens earlier, although baseball has been earlier and earlier now as well. But softball, it seems like they recognize and identify these girls, especially pitchers, super early. So it'll be interesting to hear everybody's thoughts on that forum that you're going to be on about, where softball's headed for recruiting wise.
Yeah. And for those of you out there, I just tweeted the handle of the Expert Summit on my Twitter. So, I mean, it goes really young. So these girls, so you said she's got Pac-12 offers, all that stuff. What can they do? Does she verbally commit or what? Or is she just waiting for multiple years?
You just have to wait. It sounds like her father, they're just going to wait until her junior year. I mean, they can talk, quote unquote, talk numbers, but they're going to wait until they get official offers, official numbers. And softball is much more different than baseball, scholarship money wise. So I'm sure she'll have a full ride wherever she wants to go. But
in 50 years, when robotic dams enslave the earth, you won't be able to talk to kids not nearly that early. It'll be pushed back much back. The robot wave will make sure recruiting is on the up and up.
You know what the worst part about this early recruiting stuff is the disillusionment it gives to parents that, well, now they're recruiting 8th graders, so my daughter must need to go to some of these tournaments. No. Look at the girl they recruited. That girl throws 80 miles an hour overhand and she's 12. Your daughter forgot her softball hat and her jersey to this game.
Do they wear hats?
Yeah, visors. They do not need to be in the same tournaments. This is a very different class of, and it goes along with baseball too. I mean, I know that, and all other sports. I mean, it's happening so early. 99.9% of the kids don't need to do that. Don't need to spend the extra money to go to these big time tournaments. Quote unquote big time tournaments where there's only going to be a handful of kids getting recruited.
Yeah. And if you didn't catch our episode 22, the previous one from Tuesday, we talked a lot about the tournament model in baseball, in summer baseball, and how broken it is and just how that needs to change going forward, how we should just essentially let these baseball tournament companies go bankrupt and go back to having more local games that make more financial sense. They make more recruiting sense. And you're not really getting seen at these big tournaments like you think you are. It's a big ruse. And so check that episode out if you haven't heard it. We had a really long, good discussion with my former business partner, Lucas Cook, because we ran an academy and our teams together. Obviously, Bobby still runs way more teams than we ever had. So good dynamic of different experience levels there. And we're actually going to have Amanda Smith, who's the organizer of that softball summit, on our podcast on June 5th. And we're going to talk a lot about recruiting and the tournament model with her as well. Kind of do a softball version of that talk and get her perspective. She was a former D1 player, played some pro softball as well. So it'd be a good perspective. Yeah,
I think we touched on a little bit for the tournament side, but a guy I'm really tight with Tim Brownlee runs Diamond Sports Promotions up here. I think he does a very good job running tournaments, especially just in the communication aspect. I think you guys touched on it too. He was pretty communicative to you guys when you were down in Illinois State area.
Well, yeah, and for the most part, I had only good interactions with him. Other people, I mean, I think with all those, it depends on your experience, because in any of these, you can have, hey, my team had 4 good games, like everything went fine, blah, blah. The next team's like, they didn't even line our fields. Umpire showed up 10 minutes late. Like, they didn't do anything about it. Like, there's just such a varied experience. And I don't know how you always prevent that, because these tournaments get big and a lot of games going on and not enough maybe delegates at each field from the leadership to make sure things go smoothly. I don't know. I don't run a tournament company. I would rather die than run a tournament company. That seems like a job I personally would never want. But I don't know. It's always mixed. But yeah, with him specifically, I always felt like he did his best for us, and I always had an okay time. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's guys that do good jobs. But anyways, let's move on. I've got a question for you, Dan, since I've been active on Twitter recently. Have you watched any of The Last Dance with Michael Jordan and the whole 98 Bulls thing? Have you seen any of that?
No, I've seen it being talked about. I've not watched it. I would be interested in that, but I haven't.
Yeah, so I haven't watched it either. I'm kind of waiting for all of them to come out. I'll probably knock them out if I do watch it in one week or something like that. But here's what I asked on Twitter, and I'm curious to what you would say if you could request that a Last Dance type documentary on any team or individual, who would it be? I think obviously Michael Jordan's very global figure. Everybody likes talking about him. But I just put some, the 2019 Patriots, Brady's last year, 85 Bears, 1986 Mike Tyson. I got some good comments down here from people that wanted to see different teams, but I was curious if you had anybody, maybe growing up specifically that you really want some insight on, maybe that team or follow along.
Well, I was an Atlanta Braves fan as a kid, so I was like a big Braves fan in the 90s. And it was probably me being a bandwagoner, but I loved watching Greg Maddux, John Smoltz. Like, there were just so many dynamic players on that team. Andrew Jones, like Brian Jordan. I mean, Chipper Jones. Like, they just had such a fun to watch team. It's like every other guy coming up to bat was like, oh man, what's he going to do this time? Every starting pitcher in the rotation was just like spectacular to watch in their own unique ways. Like Smoltz was very different, more of a power pitcher than Maddux. Glavin's the lefty, similar to Maddox, but they have their own style. Like it was a very fun team to watch. And when they started like kind of disband, like guys started to leave, like retire or whatever, I stopped being just like a fan of any team. So I don't have a team that I follow. I haven't since the Braves.
Right.
But I would love to see like something from that. Like I think Andrew Jones's story is probably super cool. I mean, he was 20 years old hitting dingers against the Yankees in the World Series. And then just playing center field out of his mind for the next decade. Just incredible. I mean, his play in center field. He was just like renowned as like the best center fielder ever. And, so just like stuff like that, I would love to see some of like the behind the scenes of the Braves back when they had all those big personalities and just they had so many superstars in their own right. I mean, you look at the 95, 96, 97 Braves were, yeah, they didn't pull out as many World Series rings as they should have, but you'd like the world's best center fielder out there. You had Chipper Jones playing third base every day, hitting dingers left side, right side. Just watching Chipper at the plate, his approach is just incredible. I'll just go Oppo Taco, no problem, from the left side. I just love watching him hit bombs in the left center, swinging his like swing from the left side. And there just was there's so much fascination for me of these. There just were so many like Hall of Fame caliber players on that team at that time. It was really fun to watch. But their nemesis at the time, the Yankees, they had lots of really good veterans that I think played above their ability level. Like you had a Bernie Williams, who doesn't compare favorably to anyone on the Braves team. And I'd have to go back and look. I mean, that could probably be debatable, but like you didn't have the level of stardom. But yet the Yankees always brought something bigger than themselves to these, the playoffs. Like, but like you start looking at a guy like Jim Leyritz and like Tino Martinez and Bernie Williams, you like go player for player, like the Braves like have you like forever and always back then. But the Yankees just like they played above their pay grade and played just arguably better as a team and when it mattered. And I mean, like Bernie Williams was as formidable as anyone in the playoffs, despite like not being at the caliber of what position did Bernie Williams play? Was he like left field?
Center field, no?
He was center field?
Yeah. I thought so.
I mean, he was like the poor man's Andrew Jones, like not even close. But at the same time, I digress. But so, yeah, for me, it'd be something about the mid 90s Braves. I think their story hasn't really been told that much.
Yeah. I don't want to watch that one just because I don't feel like they have the polarizing personalities that make it interesting. Chipper Jones seems very, Chipper Jones, Maddox, Glavine, they seem very vanilla. Now
Deion Sanders, dude, was a Brave.
Yeah, that'd be
two sport. Brian Jordan, two sport. Like what? Their talent level, the talent level that flowed through the Braves in the mid 90s was insane.
Right.
Looking back, it was insane. It was crazy.
I got a couple good comments on this one. The 90s Bills.
Javi Lopez.
Oh, Javi Lopez. So I got a couple good comments. The 90s Bills, Buffalo Bills come to mind. I mean, losing 4 straight Super Bowls. Oh, God, the slap. Like, that last one had to be just the ultimate punch in the face.
Yeah, except no one cares about losers ever.
But that's
No
like
one would watch that.
So
Who
that's
are
not
the Buffalo
that's not
Bills?
what.
Is that
Yeah,
even a team? No one
Jim
cares.
Kelly. That's not who I want, but I thought that was an interesting one. Our guest on Tuesday, Rick Camp. Rick Camp has his own podcast, the I'm Fat podcast and Basketball Camp podcast. He's also a former producer on the local.
Why doesn't he have a thing called Fat Camp? Why doesn't he have a Fat Camp podcast?
I don't know. We need to ask him. But
seems like its own brand. It's probably been taken a lot of times.
He commented the 2000s University of Florida athletics, which I thought was incredible toss in by him. You've got the Aaron Hernandez, the Tim Tebow, the basketball team won. They went back-to-back national championships with Joakim Noah, Al Horford. Those teams, you have Urban Meyer, who's definitely a polarizing figure in football. The Pouncey twins. It's like the University of, like, the amount of star professional athletes that came out of those Florida teams, and just in hindsight, the amount of controversy that was going on down there at the time, what happened to some of these guys. I would love to hear some of the stories, to be a fly on the wall for just those house parties that they would be having down on that campus. I think that's a really good one. Just from a selfish aspect, I want to see just the absolute chaos that Urban Meyer was basically sheltering these kids from all ridicule when they were down there. And then you got Tim Tebow with the eye black, the John 3:16 that apparently everybody hates.
Yeah, don't mention Tim Tebow on the show. I want this to be a Tim Tebow free show for all times. Are you a
Tim Tebow hater?
I am very anti Tim Tebow.
Really?
Trevor Bauer. Who else am I anti? Just because I'm just not in. Stay out of it. Get out of here.
Fair enough. So another one that was tossed out there that I liked. He didn't even give a team. Guy that coaches in the summer for us, Nick Spertoli, said, "Give me Barry Bonds," and I'm with him. I'd like to see that when he hit 73 that year. I'd like to just have a camera right next to Bonds for that whole season, just to see his whole process. I mean, you don't get much.
Well, let's talk
insight.
Let's talk about Bonds for a minute. So, so Richard Skank was on our show, talked about hitting, talked about emulating Bonds' swing. Okay, all well and good, best of all time. How much of Bonds' swing matters in how good Barry Bonds was?
I think it matters. I think it matters a lot. I think he had a great swing.
But was his swing statistically, or like by whatever measure, really that much better than everyone else? Like, he was very quick to the ball, but he's still in the major leagues. Like, how much better can a person swing? Like, does Mike Trout swing? Is his swing the reason he's better than everyone else? The answer is definitely no, right?
It matters. I don't think it matters to the point that maybe Rich is advocating that it matters, but it definitely matters. I think the thing with Bonds was, before he hit the 73 home runs, before his body just blew up, he was a Hall of Fame player. Like, he had a great swing. Yeah. And then you add in all those extracurriculars that were going on, and now you've just got you've got the closest thing to a machine playing a human sport. I mean, yeah. I saw a stat, and I can't recall exactly what it was, but the gist of it was that he only missed like 3% of the pitches in the strike zone thrown. Like, he didn't barrel 3% of pitches that were thrown in the strike zone to him, when he swung, which is an absurd statistic as a professional baseball player. I mean, just to think about watching a game, how many times guys pop a ball up or roll over or just miss the barrel completely. And you've got a guy that's basically up there playing a video game. Just this absurd talent and hand-eye coordination. And you're also giving, you put the best technique with him. There's definitely guys that have played, you name some of them, Deion Sanders, Brian Jordan, just top of the level athletes that didn't have the best technique, but they were so athletic they got away with it. Now you talk about, oh God,
I mean, Hunter
talking
Pence
about.
is close to 300 every year, and
Yeah,
he's just like a jellyfish Jesus. Like he's
right.
just like so weird. But I think my question, which you kind of got to, is it like the swing at that level. So say you took Bonds a swing and you gave him a league average swing. Is he less Barry Bonds?
Yes.
How much less Bond? Okay, sure, but like
Mm,
how much? Not as probably a significant amount because his plate
maybe
discipline is still so good.
maybe 20%, 25% less, which is pretty significant when you're talking overall like Hall of Fame numbers, world class numbers. I think he's
I don't think his swing accounts for nearly that much importance. Same with Mike Trout. I don't think his swing accounts for nearly as much. He just his approach and his eyes seem to be the reason. I mean, then you get someone like Hunter Pence who goes the opposite way. He's just got such good coordination that he can take his weird swing and do all the weird stuff and still do it at a 300 clip.
yeah. I mean, I
So
don't how much better would Hunter Pence be if he had Barry Bonds' swing? I think it's probably 20%. I mean, obviously,
well, 20% on 300 is 60 points. You're saying a 60-point swing, there's no shot. It's that much. No
but
shot.
maybe, overall 20%, like is he gonna hit
Not to mention
10
these are
more?
not little league swings. You know, like you give
No, right.
Mike Trout, like one of his teammates swings. These are still big leaguers. Everyone has a good swing
Sure.
in the big leagues. Anyone who says a big leaguer doesn't have a good swing is kidding themselves.
Uh,
Vastly.
Billy Hamilton.
Well, he's not a big leaguer anymore. I mean,
Oh,
he
he's not?
can't
I
hit
don't
that
even know
level.
if
I don't think he is. Well, if he's not, he's on his way out because he hits 200 every year.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Okay,
obviously
counterexample.
outliers. Yeah, there's
Let me
obviously outliers.
let me amend that statement. Established veteran big leaguer. Very few of them.
Even if they don't have pristine mechanics, they've got a level of success with whatever they're doing. Like it's repeatable, it's workable. They've made it work.
Yeah, but
you're going to take those careers.
This flaws you see in amateur baseball just don't exist at that level. I mean,
no, they can't.
They don't.
It's
That's
impossible.
what I'm saying.
It's impossible.
So there's differences from one to the next, but the differences are not very great. The same with pitching mechanics. Everyone does almost all the same things at that level.
Sure.
They just have a different leg kick, a different way they go down the mound. But when you start to freeze it at like foot strike and like their timing of their arm and like all these different things, there's variances for sure. But the big things that make a person throw a ball 92 miles per hour, every single person does them.
Yeah.
Every single. And then there's just variances person to person with their back leg and all this other stuff. But
yeah, I mean,
you don't see any major league pitcher like with bad, like a forward chest, like when they land or like bad weight shift. Like you don't see any of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to put a percentage on it, obviously, because we've never seen Barry Bonds with he didn't make a swing transformation, right? Like he's always had an amazing swing. He just made a body transformation. So I still think probably about 20%. I think with a lesser
60
swing,
points, you're saying he's hitting 260? Come on. You got it. Nah, get out of here.
I think he's
that's a bad take. Bad take. It's a bad
numbers
take
wise.
alarm.
I mean,
bad take thumb. If you're
you're
out there
talking
listening and you can't see it, the thumb's down.
overall. How about
Thumbs
home
down.
runs? How about home runs? Like if he normally hit what, around 35 to 45 a year, then he jumped up to 73. So I mean, batting average.
It wasn't his swing that changed.
I know. I'm just in general, like, if Hunter Pence is hitting 20 home runs a year, like, is he going to hit 25 to 30? I think so, with a more better swing. I think that's realistic. I mean, batting average I agree with you. Like 60% is absurd, or 60 points is absurd. But is he going to hit 20% more doubles? Maybe. Like if he's got 40 doubles
sure,
a year,
a couple balls won't get out of the yard.
yeah,
like,
he'll hit
stuff like that.
doubles.
But I mean, you have guys like the league is filled with guys that don't have a Bond swing that hit 30, 40 jacks and that do hit 310. That's my point. It's like,
I don't know if I'm not going to say it's
approach.
across the
him.
board, right? Like it's not going to be across the board. Like, hey, if you have Barry Bonds swing, all your numbers can jump up 20%. I think it just gives the ability that he has to wait 0.01 longer to swing the bat because his mechanics are so efficient. I think will show up in the stat sheet for a good amount of the players. 20%, obviously arbitrary number that I'm throwing out there, but I think it definitely matters.
Way too high.
It definitely matters. I would compare it to velocity. If a guy that's normally just 92 miles an hour all of a sudden is if he's 96, like, yeah, that's not, there's plenty of guys that throw 96 and there's plenty of guys that throw 92 that have, good numbers. They have successful careers and they're very good with 92. I just think, if you're throwing 96, you get away with a little more. You can, same thing with a better swing. Like you can get away with a little more with a more efficient swing because you can wait a little longer. Maybe you just get a little bit more behind some balls.
Yeah, but missed. 60 points is the difference between not being in the big leagues and being in the big leagues. I mean, that's the difference between 280 and 220.
Yeah, I concede the batting average points is not going to be.
I say 15 points of batting average. That's what I would give.
Okay, but what about what I gave a percentage? Like what percentage of let's say numbers like doubles?
I'm assuming he hits 320 every year. I don't know what Bonds hit. Let's say he hit 320. I say he hits closer to 300 if he has a lesser quality swing. But
what about numbers wise? I mean, obviously the counting numbers are big in baseball, the home runs, doubles, RBI stuff. If he's averaging 200 hits a year, how many more hits is he getting? Is he getting 20 more hits a year? I mean, it's not easy to quantify, obviously, right? Because it's not like if he squares a ball up, he's going to get a hit. But I think the counting numbers, the home runs, the doubles, I think those take a jump up to in the 20% range.
20% more. So he's hitting 48 home runs. So he goes down to 40. It's 40 doubles down to 32 doubles. I could stomach that. But I couldn't stomach 20%
as an average, right? Like as an average, like if you gave Billy Hamilton, because we just talked about him, Barry Bonds' swing, his numbers, I think, jump up well more than 20% because his swing is absolute trash. Like
he doesn't seem to be able to hit baseballs with his eyes. He just doesn't seem to be able to do it.
But if you've got,
you know this. Your swing isn't your ability to hit. You know this. He just can't hit. He just can't hit that level.
But I think
he never could.
Swing. No, I think it's going to give him, if anything, it's going to give him more confidence. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know anything about Billy Hamilton's career, but I'm sure he's had
confidence
stretches.
Is wonderful, but
I'm sure he's had stretches where he's gone on tears. Now imagine having him on that tear for
of course
an extended period of time because he's got a better swing. I think his numbers jump up more than 20%.
But you're not your hot streaks, and anyone whose batting average is 200, you have stretches where you go 300 for a while, but then you hit 100 for a while. I mean, no one's batting average is ever. I just consistently go 1 for 5. Everyone's batting average is this fluctuating, ocean wave, and the better players are less wavy than the worst players. But so sure, he's gone 3 for 4 Saturday, 2 for 4 Sunday. 1 for 2 on Monday, and then he goes 0 for 14 for the rest of the week. That is being a bad hitter. Like maybe he just gets a bunch of cookies against lesser pitching. He has a bunch of games where pitchers just seem to fall behind the count more against him, or there's no one on base, so the course are giving him more fastballs. There's just lots of situational stuff. Whereas you get someone like Mike Trout, he hits no matter who you are, no matter the situation, no matter what it is. He just. So, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
It's tough to quantify how much mechanics matter, but they just don't seem to matter. I don't think at that level. I think they matter more at the youth level, where you could have a swing that just doesn't allow you to play baseball good. You can't play baseball good because your swing's so not good.
I see a bunch of those.
Yeah, and it's hey man, if your swing doesn't suck so bad, then you might be good at this, maybe. But then again, at that level, if you good hand-eye coordination, you can figure out how to hit the ball with a bad swing, which is still kind of my point. The major leagues, Bonds' approach was unbelievable. He knew as soon as you left your hands, whether it was a strike or a ball, and whether he could absolutely demolish it or he couldn't.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hand in hand, right? It's his approach only got better because he was so mechanically efficient. He could see the ball a little bit longer. So you add. He already had an elite approach, 40-40 guy, 50-50 guy. Now you add
60-60, 70-70. Could have been 80-80, 90-90 guy.
I bet. I saw somebody tweeted this out that if the National League's got a DH, could Barry Bonds jump in the big leagues currently and be a DH? And if he did, what would his slash line be? And I think for sure Barry Bonds could still hit in some capacity in the big leagues now. If he's gonna
100%, because
he's gonna slug 600, I don't know, but I think for sure he's just in the good enough shape to hit in the big leagues right now.
I would agree with that because he's still going to do his same thing, which is he's going to only swing the bat when the ball is on the inner half of the plate and he can drive it. And that's a skill that's still going to allow him to drive the ball, even though he won't hit it 480 feet anymore. He'll just be like ball, 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 no swing, ball, ball.
Yeah.
He'll miss one. He'll miss more than he did before. Like he won't get barreled to the ball as much as he used to. But he won't swing it. He's not going to go up there and roll over on a pitch on the outside corner, even at age 50 or whatever he is.
No, his eyes.
He's going to still put a good swing on it. So yeah,
he's got to be
that.
what Barry Bonds got to be what 50s, like early 50s, probably something like that.
Well, in steroid years, that's like 70. His body's probably
unless he's still on them. Well, speaking of 50-year-olds, have you seen the Mike Tyson training video?
Yeah, it was terrifying. He is so big. He's like a bull. He's like a pit bull. You're never not going to be a pit bull. Even until the last day of your life, you're still a pit bull.
So
like just muscular and just like come at me.
How much
terrifying.
How much money would you need to just be the guy with the mitts and the armor on, taking the body shots from him in training? Like
I would do that. It would hurt, but look, you pee blood for a couple of hours, then you're fine. It's no big deal.
I saw that guy put a quote out, and he said he saw his wife and kids flash before his eyes. The first right hook Tyson threw at his because those mitts are, right next to your face, and this guy's he's not his normal trainer, right? Like this guy's not the guy that trained Tyson in his prime. He's just a guy with mitts on. You're trusting a guy with years of substance abuse and anger issues to miss your face by inches and hit this 3x3 mitt you have on. Terrifying.
Yeah.
They're talking about him fighting Holyfield again, the rematch.
That's why
You'd watch it.
Why would any of you old guys do that? Don't do that. It's a good way to like get permanently injured. You're 55 and you're taking haymakers from. No, I don't watch anything. Like I watch so little TV. I watch so little anything now. If you're like, hey Dan, come over, fly to Chicago, and put on a mic, of course, like I'll be there. I'll like Malort will be there and Tyson, like sure, but I'm not gonna like go out of my way to watch it.
Shout out to our unofficial sponsor, Jepson's Malort.
Shout out to Malort. Here, I'll read off the commercial. Malort, for when you want to drink the world's grossest liquor and laugh at your friends as they make ugly faces. Malort.
Malort. When
it
sounds like a good idea to ruin a family party.
Yep. Malort. So I supported local business the other day, and I got. I'm still unhappy about this. I wrote the company because I was unhappy about it. I walked into a local DC coffee shop called Compass Coffee.
I've heard of it.
And yeah, they do a good job, and sat many a time in their cafes. One customer's in there getting checked out, and they had a little thing of like their homemade syrups, and they like this nice bottle, which I needed a bottle. And I asked the guy while he's checking this person, I said, hey, how much are these syrups? Because they weren't labeled, the price. And he looks me in the eye and then goes back to checking the guy out. I'm like, oh, okay. So your company's laid off 80% of your people, and you don't have time to answer that question as I'm trying to like help you guys out. Like, you don't need to thank me for my business. I chose to come in here. But at the same time, and then after you check the guy out, which clearly doesn't take that much brain power where you can't then help another customer, just like, hey, oh yeah, $12. Cool. That's all I needed. They just like turned around and like went about his business behind the counter. I'm like, oh, guess I'll just go screw myself. Thanks. Well, I still bought the bottle. I still bought the thing. Purchased. But I emailed the company about it. I'm like, hey, I don't know if you guys just like, maybe the guy had a bad day. I don't know, but I came into this like support small business, and I made a purchase, and your guy like didn't give a shit. So I don't know. I'll go to Starbucks. I mean, like, I like Starbucks. It's fine. They have good cups. They have good mugs. But it just struck me as so strange and just pissed me off.
Good take home mugs.
But I'm still drinking out of my clean canteen thing.
I support local coffee shops as well as Starbucks. My wife she does marketing for Starbucks. So I support her by getting Starbucks. It's not my favorite coffee, but I do like it.
Well, when you're feeling basic and you want a pumpkin spice latte with a little bit less pumpkin spice because it's like too sweet the way they make it, I mean, I'm basic when it comes around October. I think they're good. I like their syrup. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah,
Their regular coffee's not good. It's just it's like over roasted. It's burnt. It's just not good.
let's be honest.
But their cafes are great, and their marketing and their branding is great. I like their stuff. They do great with all that, and I think that's important for any business. And like, you need to have good branding if you're going to be successful, and people identify with your brand.
And the pioneers of the free internet access should not be forgotten, because that is the reason we go to Starbucks. At least I do. I mean, I could go to any coffee shop. I go out of my way to go to Starbucks because I can sit there and work. Well, not currently, but
well, yeah, and that's my thing with Starbucks is and that was their original thing, is like, we're a third place, which it's not your work and it's not your home. It's a place you can be, which that's, again, like, they have great cafes. Like, their design of their cafes is awesome. Like, it's a good place to sit. It's consistent. You're going to get decent Wi-Fi. Like, that's why I always go to Starbucks. I don't go there for the coffee. I don't really care about their coffee, but
sure.
But yeah, so I don't know, disappointing. And then I went and I bought bread at a local place called Union Market or Union Kitchen or something. And the guy was super nice. And just like, he just seemed like a friendly person in general, but just like, and again, I don't think companies at this point with coronavirus need to be like thanking us. That's not like, I just like wanted a cup and I wanted to get one of their syrups because I've been to Compass and I like it. And I went in this place, I needed some bread and I like needed to just grab one quick as I was going home. But the guy was just like super nice, and it was clear, like, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to come back in here and support that guy. That's how I want to feel going in any store. And like, I'm going to go back to that guy's. Yeah. Like, whatever.
We're getting a good look into Dan's shopping habits, syrup and bread.
Well, I try to do a good job with like the stuff I give people on the web, like my videos and YouTube and all this stuff. And you don't need to thank me for it. I just do it because it's what I choose to do with my time. But if you are going to leave a comment, don't leave some like I got one like a month ago. And of course, this is just like being on the internet. You have to deal with it. But a person was like, audio quality's bad. I didn't listen to this. I turned it off 30 seconds. So, well, screw you. Like, who cares? This is free video, dude. I have 20, 30, 40, 50 free videos. And you're leaving one comment to say that my audio sucked from one that I made 2 years ago. Like, who are you? Like,
does it matter? Is that why you're listening though? Like, are you scouring YouTube for high audio quality?
And I listened to it and it wasn't bad audio. It just was like a little bit windy that day for like a minute. And it's like, okay, like whatever. And it's the same way with like with small business. I mean, I think people in general are appreciative and try to support local a lot, but I don't know. It's like I said, people don't need to thank me for anything that I do on the web. You don't. Like, it's fine. That's not why I do stuff. When you do it, it's appreciated. Like, sure, it like makes you want to work harder, but just don't be meh. So I like, as a business person, I just like, bad service pisses me off, and bad branding I don't like.
Now
you
know
need to have good branding. Anyway,
you know who's got great service? You know who's got great service? Our unofficial sponsor, Jepson's Malort.
Great service. You need terrible tasting liquor, they'll have it to your door in a lickety split.
Absolutely.
You'll be puckering your face and wondering why you drank that in no time. Jepson's Malort.
So I want to end on this, and our friend Zach Clark is listening, and I was going to text him before to get his opinion. I threw a poll out there on the morning brush back, and the bad thing about these Twitter polls is you can only put 4 options. So really hindered
so
me.
Limited.
It did, and it hindered me. But I put best superhero poll, who you got? Hashtag arm talent, because we talk arm talent. So I got Superman, Batman, Wolverine, and other. Now, the caveat to
what
the
kind
other.
Of trash options? Those are trash options.
Who would you put? So
why
my
was
other
Spider-Man not on there?
Spider-Man? What is Spider-Man?
Superman. No one cares about Superman. If it's 1946, someone cares about Superman. No one's cared about Superman in so long.
Dan, this is why you're out of touch. Let me read you the
standard,
current.
But no one wants this dude in a blue suit, in blue Lululemon bodysuit, flying around with a red cape. No one cares about that.
Here, hold on.
Obsolete for a long
time. Hold yourself for a second here. Let me give you the numbers, the current poll numbers.
I'll hold myself. Go.
Superman 42%, Batman 19%.
Bad take, internet.
Wolverine 16%, and other 22%. Now, to your point, my other ones that I was gonna put on there were Spider-Man and Iron Man. Those were the two that came to mind, but I didn't have enough space. So
I mean,
I
Spider-Man
assume
and Batman
other.
are like the two standards. Those two need to be on any poll.
But Superman is the original superhero. He's got super in the name.
It's played out.
I mean, I didn't vote. Who are you voting for? What do you got? Are you other Spider-Man?
The fact that other is a choice is just, again, that's just terrible. But
you have to.
So are we going like who we want to exist in real life, who our favorite is, or who makes the best movies? Because Batman's movies with like Christian Bale were clearly the best going back many decades.
They're very good.
Spider-Man's
I
movies, every Spider-Man movie is the same. Guy runs around shooting his web, flying around some buildings. Maybe won't get through it, but he gets through it and kills the bad guy or whatever. Like puts him in jail, whatever he does. Does Spider-Man kill anyone? I don't think he does.
No, he does.
But like, I wouldn't go watch another Spider-Man movie. I haven't watched a Spider-Man movie in a while. Like I wore my Spider-Man jumpsuit as a kid and hoped that it would give me powers. It didn't, and then now
here's what we're getting on our Periscope. We got Clark is chiming in. And thank you, Zach, for the comments. He says fantastic quality. He said he questions, is Batman a superhero? He said Batman is really cool because he doesn't have a superpower. He's the only regular guy. But he's a hero.
I like Batman even less for that because he's just a trust fund baby that uses. He's like that same loop. He's a Lululemon superhero. Let me get this research and development money. Let me tap into my trust fund to go convert my McLaren F1 and my Lamborghini into like a transformer to fight crime. Like,
so he's not a Lululemon. Like he's got the armor. He's got like the Christian. Here's the knock on Batman.
Of course, Batman would wear Lululemon underwear. If you have
in his everyday life,
in trust fair, yes, he's a Lululemon. I'm like, I wear Lululemon, but he is like head to toe Lulu'd out.
Let me give you the knock.
Waspy, spoiled rich kid. Oh, he lost his dad and his mom to gun violence. Okay, sleep on your bed of money and get over it.
Here's my big issue with Batman is that he's got a little sidekick named Robin. And for whatever, they don't speak of that anymore. They leave that out of the movies. Well, you know what? It's this part of his history. It's part of his heritage.
The Me Too movement might come out and find something unsavory about that relationship.
Well, regardless, Robin is useless. He's just a guy in an odd colored cape, that greenish. He brings nothing to the table. He's dead weight. He's got a sidecar on that sweet motorcycle that Batman has. It's a pain in the ass. I don't like Robin. Now, Superman, I'm with you. Superman is very basic. Like he's just a broad chest. Like what can he do? He flies. Big shit. Like I don't want to fly.
Flying is pretty cool. Yeah, you do.
It's cool. I chose Wolverine. I'm a big Wolverine fan.
Wolverine's cool. He's a good one for sure.
He can't die. Like you can't kill him except with that one bullet that apparently everybody has that encounters him. That one bullet. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh. I don't, but Wolverine,
shoot him in the
he's
head.
A good character. Hugh Jackman was like great playing him. Like he was just like that's who Hugh Jackman was born to be.
I think if anybody rivals the Batman movies, it's the Wolverine movies. I
don't really dabble in those.
Iron Man.
Yeah, I don't really watch the superhero stuff, but I watched all the Batman ones because they were just super good. Even though he's a trust fund baby.
Zach wants to know who your pick is. Juggernaut ?
So Juggernaut is my unofficial nickname because when I sprint, I have very like a head bob. I have like this like intense. I'm not super athletic, kind of like I'm gonna run through this wall kind of sprint. So that's why our friend refers to me as the Juggernaut sprinter. But I don't know. I guess I would probably go Wolverine over Spider-Man just because of how tired Spider-Man's movies are. Superman is 1940. Spider-Man, like you see his movies once, you've seen them all. Batman's a trust fund baby. I don't really go into all the Iron Man, all that stuff. So I guess I'm going to go with Batman.
If I'm giving, so you got to go by the movies, right?
I'm going by the movies. Everyone who didn't enjoy the Batman the Christian Bale ones. They were
So
all
if you're
just
going
they were
by-
all superb. They were superb movies.
And you put yourself like, who wants to be Tobey Maguire? Nobody
That's
has
where
ever.
that's where they lost me. I'm like,
Yeah.
this nerd, get him out of here. And I get that they're trying to find that like, you know, dorky-ish kind of normal dude.
That everyman.
Spider-Man. Like I get that, but Tobey Maguire and his I'm Tobey Maguire. His voice sucks. Like I just like get out of here with that.
So I think the
Could've been any
official.
person.
Here's my official superhero rankings. It's Wolverine
Okay.
number 1. It's by a landslide.
I support that.
Then I'm going Iron Man number 2, Batman number 3, Superman, and Spider-Man somewhere down in like the 80s, somewhere in the 80s. But I put Iron Man
80s after
So
like
here's my-
Moth Guy and like Plumber Man. Here's
Here's
in
my
the 80s.
logic. Here's my logic.
Who is number 76 on that list? Where Spider-Man is number 80.
Robin's number 76.
Malort fellow, their sponsor, their commercially
Who is
created,
the Simpsons?
Malort.
Duffman. Duffman's above him.
Duffman is such a good character. Don't even get me started on the Simpsons and Duffman. Duffman is very sad now. Duffman he just had the best. He was in one out of every like 12 episodes, but when he was in there, it was just always gold. Every time Duffman exists in an episode, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be great. He's going to have some line.
Zach, we should have had Zach on for this, but he says when you go by the movies, it sells a superhero short. And what I can say to you, Zach, is that you're not on this, so shut up.
Well, we
No
appreciate
way.
you. Don't shut up. We appreciate because obviously we're live on Twitter and YouTube. So you're always welcome to leave us a question to cover on the show, even if it's nonsensical. Chad, Chad says Malort is never a good idea. Accurate, Chad.
It's very accurate. He says Quail Man from Doug. Quail Man's somewhere around. He's definitely above Spider-Man.
Doug is a trash comic. I did not identify with Doug as a kid. Let's not go there. No Tim Tebow, no Trevor Bauer, no Doug on the show.
No Doug. No Patty Mayonnaise.
I didn't really even watch Doug. I couldn't tell you. There was like a lemur or like a anteater in the show or something.
I don't know.
What was that show?
Skeeter. It was Nickelodeon back in the 90s was some form of hallucinogenics writing.
Sure.
But I'm definitely taking Iron Man over Batman. Then it's based purely on the movies, and it's based purely on the personalities of Robert
What does
Downey.
Iron Man do? He flies, but it's just a dude in a suit. He flies. Like what
Same as
skills
Batman.
does he have that Superman doesn't have?
Same as
Superman
Batman.
does it in his own Lululemon bodysuit.
Yeah, but he looks Superman's so. It's just such a bad optic with the blue and just the flying. Like, come on, you got to fly.
It's 1950. Yeah, it never got better.
What can he do? He can leap a tall building in a single bound. I mean, who can't? You could do that now.
Yeah,
you could do that now.
Yeah. No, I couldn't. I couldn't. Maybe my robots in 50 years from now could do that. You'd hope they'd have that capability. But
Bill Murphy chimed in and said Howard the Duck. And if I'm
these are just getting nonsensical now. But this was a good Friday episode. I think we did a good job covering a lot of newsish topics that won't be relevant even a week from now. But good fun way to go out on our Friday.
Yeah, and I just want to point out and give a shout out to Lenny Dykstra on Twitter who posted he hasn't been arrested in 2 years. So I want to give a shout out, congratulations to Nails. Yeah,
Congrats.
Slow clap for him. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. No response yet, but I'll be working that angle for the next.
Tell him there's Malort. Tell him there's Malort.
That might send him back to jail.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Well, for those of you listening, thank you for being here. This again is the Morning Brushback. Be sure to leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. We greatly appreciate it. Obviously, you know that reviews sort of power the world. So if you can leave us a review, it would mean a lot. We'd really just like sleep better at night. Your reviews are the warm blanket that keeps us from crying ourselves to sleep. Think of it that way. So leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Thanks for tuning in. Share the show, and we will see you here next week. Bob, send them off.
Yeah, join us Tuesday.
To infinity and beyond. Yeah.
Join us Tuesday for Rick Camp. Send us your questions. Rick's got a lot of experience in sports radio, so it's gonna be a good talk. And the I'm Fat podcast, which he's got a lot of good thoughts on fast food options.
Sounds good. Can have a lot of Chick-fil-A talk on Monday
There
or
you go.
Tuesday.
Waffle fries.
Waffle fries. All right. We'll see you next week on the morning brushback.